Hey there, what is up guys? My name is Amir and welcome to the Azure Data Factory series. In the last few videos, I created a data factory pipeline and also created a schedule trigger. We also looked at the type of triggers that data factory has to offer and which one of them was the tumbling window trigger. I know you might have a lot of questions. What is tumbling window trigger? What's the difference with tumbling window and schedule trigger, and when you should be using it? So in this video, I will be answering exactly all these questions. Let me tell you this, tumbling window trigger is the most asked topic in the interviews and is something which is more often used while using data factory. This makes this video really important for this reason, and I'll be breaking this video into two parts. In the first part, I'll be going through the theoretical understanding of what tumbling window trigger is and trying to explain when you should consider using it. In the next video, I'll be creating a tumbling window trigger on the portal with a deep dive on the properties that it has to offer. So without spending any more time, let's get started. So what is a tumbling window trigger? Now, tumbling window trigger are a type of trigger that fires at a periodic time interval, and we always have to specify a start time to it. It also maintains a state. The other way to explain tumbling windows, it's nothing but a series of a fixed size, non-overlapping and a contiguous time interval. Contiguous means that it shares a common time border between the intervals that it creates. Tumbling window has a one-to-one relationship with a pipeline and can only be referenced with a singular pipeline. So you can just refer to a single pipeline. No, it's not like scheduled trigger where you can have a many-to-many relationship. Tumbling window trigger is a more heavyweight alternative for scheduled trigger. It offers a lot of features specially dedicated for complicated scenarios like creating dependencies and then rerunning if the pipeline is failing, and also giving the users the ability to automatically retry the data factory pipelines. So let's look at the feature what a tumbling window trigger has to offer. So the first one is backfill scenario. Now clearly this is not supported by scheduled triggers. What is backfill scenario, however, is that it helps you execute pipelines or schedule pipelines for the past. So if you're trying to execute a pipeline as let's say today with a start time of 1st of April, it will have all the consecutive runs from 1st April till 24th of April because of this capability of tumbling window trigger. It will also retain a state. We'll talk about this in more details when we'll be looking at the examples. It's coming up in the other slides. So the next one is retry capabilities. That is again, which is something which was not supported by schedule trigger and is supported by tumbling window. With the help of this, you can automatically retry the execution of the pipeline in case if it fails. Concurrency. Now we already saw that we have the option of backfill scenario, and with the help of concurrency, you can execute the data factory pipelines simultaneously. It allows between a 1 to 50 concurrent triggered pipeline runs. Just like I shared an example of 1st of April till 24th of April, there will be around 24 runs if your interval is set to 1 day. But what if you want to run the pipeline for the past 2 months? The number of execution will be going beyond 50. So 50 is the maximum simultaneous runs that tumbling window has to offer. In future, it might increase and in future it might change. This is the limit that data factory offers. The dependency. You can create a very good dependency with tumbling window triggers. This will be a topic of next video, and we'll be discussing more details. On a high level, it just is used to create a dependency between two executions. So if you have to make sure that one pipeline is executed after the specific another pipeline, then you can use this feature, which is also a part of tumbling window trigger. And tumbling window trigger at the end supports a one-to-one relationship. That means that one pipeline can be connected to one trigger or reference to one trigger. The next thing that we have to discuss is the system variables. Now the supported system variables are the schedule time and start time, which is similar to the schedule triggers, but there are two additional one, which is window start time and window end time, which is kind of the most important one, I would say. And this is something which is used a lot when you're working on such projects or such use case where tumbling window is used. Now for example, if you have a tumbling window trigger that runs every hour for the window 1 a.m. to 2 a.m., the definition of these variables will be something like this, where the year will be 2017 0901, and here you can see that the time is set to 1 and 2. So this will be the value of the variable, that is start time and end time. So as I said, we already went through the capabilities of tumbling window trigger, but it's best to actually understand this with an example. So here I have an example where we have an SFTP location, and on a daily basis, an incremental file is placed in this location at 8 a.m. UTC. The content of the file is important to understand because what I'm trying to say with incremental file is that this file on a daily basis has 10 records, and these 10 records are generated on a daily basis. Imagine that these files are created to log which employee is available on a specific date. For each date, a file is created. So let's say if you want to pull the data from the source system, you can use a data factory pipeline. Inside that data factory pipeline, you can just create a copy activity. But the more relevant part is creating a trigger. In that copy activity, you can use the properties of last modified start time and last modified end time to pick up the data based on a timely manner. The trigger that you'll be creating will be using these two variables, which is trigger start time and a trigger end time, and the interval that you will be setting is for 24 hours. So what will happen is whenever the data factory pipeline runs, it will create these two variables, that is the window start time and the end time, and will set values to it based on the start time that you have set. Now let's say you created a data factory pipeline along with the trigger on 24th of April, which is this file over here. So there was already a file which was placed on the previous day, and then you'll be getting new files on 25th and 26th. So if your pipeline is created on 24th and it is deployed in data factory, and if the trigger start time is set to 24th, what will happen is the pipeline will execute on 24th, and similarly it will execute on 25th and get you the data, and 26th and get you the data. But if it is executing on 24th, the trigger time will be 23rd of April at 09, because the file is placed at 8 AM UTC. So I'm keeping a buffer and setting the start time to 23rd. If you set this, what will happen is the copy activity will use these values to copy the files from the SFTP location. And in this case, if you look at the range, the file which was placed on 23rd was placed at 8 AM. So on 24th, if you're executing this pipeline, you will only get the file which was placed on 24th before 9 AM UTC. And then you understand that you can incrementally on a daily basis using data factory pick up the files which are coming up ahead. But what if you want to also pull the data for 23rd? So in this case, what I will do is I will schedule the trigger and set the start date to 22nd of April, so that the window that is created will be 22nd of April 9 AM to 23rd of April 9 AM. Even if I deploy this pipeline on 24, we will have two executions. One execution will be for 23rd and the other one will be for 24th, and both the files will be copied on 24th of April into your blob storage. So this explains what's the benefit of backfill scenarios. Let's take an example of what does retaining a state means. So if you look at this same example, let's say if your pipeline was deployed on 23rd and now you have data for 23rd, 24th, and you are in the current date, let's say, which is 26th of April. Let's say that on 25th April, the pipeline failed due to a connection with the SFTP location. So if you are on 26th April and the pipeline execution was successful, so you will have the data in your blob storage for 23rd, 24th and 26th. Now in an ideal scenario, if you had a schedule trigger, what you had to do is you have to go back into the pipeline, pass the parameter, which is the date at which you want to execute or copy this file specifically. In case of tumbling window, all you have to do is rerun that pipeline. So you see the big difference here, right? Tumbling window is making things easier for you. It's more of an easier approach on handling such scenarios. And this is a perfect scenario to understand where you can use a tumbling window. And according to me, if you summarize, if you try to look at it at a high level, if you're trying to pull up data from an incremental file or from a source which is giving you incremental data, tumbling window trigger is the most suitable option. You can make a lot of changes and tweaks and adjust your schedule trigger and make it work similar to this, but maintaining that will be a lot more complex. And it's really easy for just, rerunning the pipelines when it fails and creating backfill or running history load. So I would suggest you to always use tumbling window triggers in such scenarios. Now let's just create a tumbling window trigger quickly on our data factory. So here we are on our Azure Data Factory portal. We already had a trigger which was created in the last video, so make sure that you watch all the other videos regarding this trigger topic also with Data Factory. Now in this video, as I said, I'll be just creating a trigger to show you how to create one, and we'll be talking more in detail and in depth about this in the next video. So let's just create a new trigger, which, as I said in the earlier videos as well, you can just create it right from here. I will name it as copy emp daily with let's just call it as tumbling window. I'll change the type to tumbling window. And start date, I clearly have an option to selecting a specific start date. So if I want to execute the pipeline on 24th or start the execution or pick up the data from 24th, I have to use the start date as 23 because that's how the periodic time intervals will be set. And then my interval will be 24 hours to run it on a daily basis. And then the next thing is the advanced option, which is the dependency, and we'll be talking about this in the next video. And then all you have to do is just click on start trigger on creation. Now you'll not be able to publish this because you haven't linked it to the data factory pipeline. So I'll be doing what is I'll be discarding this for this video. This was just to show you how to create a data factory tumbling window trigger. If you have more questions, just reach out to me via comments or DM me directly on Twitter. Make sure that you're following me first. That's it from my side for this video. Share this video with someone who is interested in learning data factory and more about data engineering. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next one.